Welcome to the Business Pro League podcast. It is my honor to have Philip Hackett here with me today. And Philip is someone who I've been getting to know over the last few months as a client, but also just as a friend as well, and learning about his business and what he's been doing in the arborist industry. So we're going to have a great conversation today, all about how he got started and what were the lessons that he learned to get to the point where he is now, and we're going to have a great conversation. So welcome, Philip, to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Nice to be here.
Excellent. So why don't we just start with a little bit about your story, a little bit about your background and how you got started. And I think the question I really want to get to is, why did you start an arborist business? Of all businesses you could have chosen, what was it about arborists or that got you interested and started in that?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think over my whole sort of lifetime, I wanted to have my own business. So I really always had that desire there. And it wasn't until I was like in my early 30s that I actually took the plunge to do that. But with arborist work, arboriculture, it's exciting, fun, dangerous, risky, teamwork. It's got lots of elements that I'm attracted to, and it's potential to make good money as well. So that was always nice. And then it was just a case of sort of working in the industry from time to time, and then eventually meeting my father-in-law, or who was to be my father-in-law, who was about to sell the business, and the opportunity came up to buy it. And that's how I entered the business world.
Yeah. And what was that like? Tell us more about how you bought the business and that process and how that went, because I imagine that would have been an interesting transition for someone who's been running the business for quite a while, I imagine. And then you coming in as a young green kind of guy to take over this business. Was that transition challenging or what was that like?
Yeah, no, it was 12 years ago now, so it's a while ago, but there was challenges to it. He'd semi-retired, so the business was on ice, so to speak. I actually worked with him for a little bit, and I realized I just had massive knowledge gaps. So I actually went and worked with the Brisbane City Council for 3 years as an arborist, got all my tickets, qualifications, experience, and built that sort of network and understanding of what you call modern arboriculture as opposed to old school. So that was like invaluable. And then in the scheme of things, it was like, I felt like God's hand was in it, because like after having this amazing experience with the Brisbane City Council where they did train me up, they actually made our whole division redundant. And so I got like a nice little lump sum as a redundancy package, which I was able to use to buy the business. That's how it all came about.
Yeah, great. And what were those first few years like? Like what did you have to do? What did you have to learn? Was it a major shift in those first few years?
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, like the business world, like any other world, is just another space that you need to just learn the language, learn the history, learn the ways, just be a student in every way. Yeah. So there was a lot of learning, and it still is. Yeah. Just reading books, podcasts, talking to people, just becoming like a real questioner and observer and note taker, and just, like there's people who've gone before you. So there's a success leaves clues. You can find your way just by looking at other people that have gone before you. So yeah, like my father-in-law, like he'd been in business for 17 years. He was a trove of information. So I just pestered him. I was always asking him questions, always just picking his brain for information, and then different arborists in the network that I'm a part of. But yes, so I soon realized I needed to learn a lot more. So I, signed up for business coaching pretty early on. And then that just opened my eyes to the whole business world and the understanding that, I lacked. And I've since done 3 different business coaching programs, read hundreds and hundreds of books, attended seminars and podcasts, almost daily I'm just consuming stuff. So I do enjoy that side of things as well, like that learning, lifelong learning. Recently joined BNI. So just appreciating the need for understanding and to learn this stuff. It's a competitive industry, and you need to keep up with things.
Yeah. So in those first few years, I know we're going back a while now, being 11 years ago, 12 years ago. In those first few years, though, like, what would be the things that you had to learn first, like to even get your feet on the ground, the business running, and what were the kind of key things that you had to learn at the beginning?
Look, just the basics is just getting a good bookkeeper, getting a good accountant, just getting the structure set up, whether it's a company or a trust or what have you. But try to have the end in mind from the beginning. What do you want to achieve? What's the long-term goal? Is this to create wealth for your family? Is it to make some fast money? Is it whatever it is? But try to figure that stuff out at the start. Obviously, you do grow as your knowledge, but the structure that you set up at the start is very important. Can save you a lot of heartache further on. So that was good. I did have a good accountant and a great bookkeeper. So that helped with just the practical side of things. But I think just learning sales and marketing, like just, anyone can actually do the work. But understanding that everything is marketing and everything affects your sales. So just having that appreciation that the way you talk, the way you look, the way you dress, the way you communicate, the way you do the job, the way you turn up, leave, the branding on your trucks, whatever, it's all adding to the customer experience. It's all adding value to the customer and their perception and their status to their neighbors. And just, learning that is all adding value. And then the more value that you can add, the more value that you can receive. And so that was the real learning curve, just to come into that right mindset around that. And look, just the mindset that you have around money as well. Like, we all come from different families, different histories, some wealthy, some poor, some were wealthy, then became poor. So there's so much like that you have in your mindset that you're not even aware of. And business does expose that pretty quickly once you start negotiating and interacting with the marketplace, where there's lots of pressure and things pulling on you and trying to, maybe bring your price down or up or whatever. So I had to really come to grips with what I actually believed and where I was at with my mindset around money.
What was one of the key things or key areas that you'd needed to change in terms of your mindset around money?
Just that money is a good thing, and just grab it, and it's useful to do anything worthwhile. You've got to have a regular flow of it coming, and just it's okay to aspire to be the best, and the best gets paid the best. And so just have that sort of appreciation for it, value it, and in the end, we're pretty satisfied pretty early, but it really does affect your family. It really does affect your team, the type of people that you can attract to the company and reward. Because effectively they're giving you their life. So as a business owner, you need to cherish them and reward them, look after them, pay for everything they need, really. Yeah, so that was a big one. So we probably, early on, I just probably undercharged for quite a few years, discounting prices, because to me, it was still a lot of money back then, but it wasn't enough to grow a business. So I probably left a lot of money on the table in the first few years, which is, normal. But my advice to anyone starting out is just get your numbers right early, figure out what it actually costs to be in business and what sort of profit margin you want. And then when you communicate that to your customers through your presentations, your quotes, what have you, they pick up on that authority in your voice and the way you communicate, because there's a certainty. But when you don't know your numbers, you don't know your margins, they can detect, even just in a subconscious level, that this guy doesn't really know why he's charging me what he's charging. So that's crucial. But that comes in time. So the earlier that you can learn that, the better you'll be.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how much more confidence you have going into a sales meeting when you know your numbers. because
Mm.
when you go in, you're going in because you know that this is the value that you're bringing, this is the cost that it is to you to provide this service, and then also this is the level of profit that you actually require, not just to pay your overheads, but also to support the growth of the business. And when you go in, you have this confidence, this is what it's worth. And I think that confidence really helps when you're presenting. You're not questioning the value of what you're not of what you're charging. I know there's been times where I think where I've gone into a conversation where I haven't been confident in that, and you're giving them the price, but you're hoping that it's worth it and that they'll accept it. But there's a different level of authority and confidence when you go in knowing your numbers, knowing what you need, and knowing what the value of what you're offering is at the same time.
100%. Yeah, no, totally agree. So that was a real big learning curve.
Yeah, great. The arborist industry is it's hard work. It's especially up here in Queensland. Obviously, you're working outside a lot. You've got all sorts of weather, hot days. You're climbing trees, and it can be obviously quite dangerous in that level. What I mean by that is that it's going to attract a very certain type of person to do that kind of work, because they're hard workers. You need to have hard workers that are willing to grind it out, deal with the weather, deal with a lot of those challenges. So how do you attract the right people who will represent you well on site with all this type of work that's quite challenging work?
Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's a good question. I think it's like anything, you attract who you are. So it comes back to you, like who do you want to be? Who are you consistently? Can you lead yourself? Are you all in? Do you have a path? So things start with yourself, and then you'll attract people like you. So that's probably the key. And then you're trying to just really look after you guys, build good connections, let them know that they're really valued and you appreciate them, reward them. But yeah, and then it becomes like a team thing. So you're in it together, and then you can empathize with them. But on those really hot days, taking drinks, you can just appreciate that was a really hard day. So tomorrow, let's gonna do a couple of easy jobs. So you're not overburdening them or exploiting them, but you appreciate them. You're in the journey together. Yeah. So that's probably what I've focused on. Yeah. If that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So you started your business, you're working out how to get your numbers, you're starting to attract some people to help you along the journey and climb the trees, cut the trees, and so on and so forth. Were there any kind of major changes that you had to shift early on or along the journey that you just realized maybe you're doing something a certain way and you're like, this isn't working, so you had to make some pivots or changes along the way?
Yeah, look, I think for me, it was just keep learning and just educating myself into the business world and understanding how the businesses work and how you have industry benchmarks, learning what sort of industry sort of costs are, and then, yeah, understanding the customer and what, I say, a homeowner wants, what they care about, what they don't like, learning how to communicate through all the different channels. So yeah, that it's just a constant sort of journey of improving, looking to regular weekly meetings, like reviewing each job, try to just constantly improve and have that culture of constant improvement. So we look at the wins, we look at the losses. We're not trying to blame or anything. We're just trying to figure out what went well, what didn't, and then how do we improve. So that's for 12 years we've been doing that, just constantly getting better, a little bit better here and there. So that's the way we've rolled. And so from what we do now to what we did back then, there's a massive difference. And we've got 14 people in the company. People are sort of more specialized in their role. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but basically just that sort of culture of constant improvement.
Yeah, because I feel in the early days, you just, especially if you're the ones that are on the tools. You're the specialist in the company, and then you've got a lot of generalists just helping you out and getting the job done. And then you're starting to try and figure out how to hire specialists to then hand off some of those kind of specialist roles and responsibilities that you're doing to do that to the same level and quality that you hold yourself to, that you've learned that the clients require. How did you do that? Like, how did you, because I know that there's probably a lot of, especially service providers, that are so concerned about getting off the tools because they're worried that the quality of the work is going to drop. So for you in that transition phase where you were like stepping away from being the specialist, being the site manager, and stepping away from having a lot of that control over the end result, what were the things that you had to do or do differently to ensure that you still got the result in terms of the quality delivery, but at the same time start to get a bit more hands off and allow your team to carry the responsibility?
Yeah, I think like probably the key hire is your first main hire. Try to find that person that you can just pour yourself into and just teach them the way that you think, the way you behave, and the way what you believe, and just what you expect, and how you want to treat the customer, and the standards about the workmanship. Yeah, so once you get that key first person, that gives you the liberty to step away, because they can carry what you have and sort of multiply that, duplicate that. So I was fortunate to find someone like that. There was actually a couple of people like that. And yeah, one of the guys that was a contract climber to us early on, he'd been in his own business for 20 years, and he just stepped back from his business and he just wanted to do a bit of work 2-3 days a week. But he's just a fantastic guy, and still really good mates with him today. But yeah, he was able to bring all of his wisdom and knowledge and just add it to our business, and we just went up like massive levels in our own ability. And then we had another key guy, Dean, join like 8-9 years ago, and he's just works so hard and just gives it everything and just embodies what we're about as well. So that really gave me the freedom to step back and focus on quoting and building out the system. Yeah, that was really the turning point for us.
Yeah.
To free me up.
Yeah, great. So if you were to look back on that journey over the last 11 years, is there anything that you would have done differently to speed up that growth curve or that of the business?
Yeah, look, there's lots of things that I've learned, but I think sometimes you just got to learn them, and you're just not ready for it, because it really comes back to yourself, your mindset, your own abilities. So you're navigating business and family and community, all these pressures, and you're getting pulled in every direction. So you're not ready to make those changes because you're just not that person yet. So yeah, you do need to grow, because the business is a real reflection of yourself, I find. So, but yeah, like to think back, some of the main things were, so I'm just trying to think of them.
What allowed you to, let's just talk about what you're just saying before. What allowed you to hold on and be willing to go through that? Because sometimes we want to grow fast. We want to be the person that we're not yet as fast as possible, or at least achieve the results of the person that we're not yet. And there can be that frustration between what is now and what we think should be as a result of our work. And there's that tension and that frustration. Maybe we're not getting paid as much as we would like. Maybe we're working on the tools more than we would like. Maybe there's sacrifices that we're having to make with family or for in the community, or whatever it is that we're doing. What is it that kept you going and holding on and just staying in business when all of these competing priorities are pulling you in different directions?
Yeah, I think I just made the decision that this is what I was going to do. And I was just, effectively burn the bridges or burn the ships, whatever. But yeah, just been all in, and this is it. I just made the decision, and this is it. I never really gave myself options to think of other pursuits. I really did get single focused on this. So
Hmm.
that's been a real, just a massive help. And just providing for the family and building a future for us has always been the key. But I always had a desire to actually see, like, just can we do business in God's way with integrity, honesty, generosity, and build one, because business people sometimes get branded by being greedy or selfish or dishonest, but the reality is the opposite. Most people are very hardworking, honest, generous,
Mm.
and I just wanted to build a business that way. Yeah, not saying I'm perfect, but the goal is to live, like this, and just over the long term as well. So just having that. But I just going back to your previous question, I did think I remembered what I was going to say was I think to do something differently, I would have backed myself more early on and just not always think about the exit strategy of if I buy this new asset, and it doesn't work out, how much can I sell it for, and can I come back to a safe place, where I should have just plowed ahead sooner and just bought more assets early on, because as soon as I got really invested in equipment and the assets that produced the income, the business just went up massive. And that goes for team as well. Like, just keep investing in your team, keep sending them on courses, keep investing in their qualification. And yes, you might see a plateau for 6 months, a year, but the return's coming, and the return just compounds. So just having that sort of confidence. Are you going for it, or are you second guessing yourself? Because you got with wisdom, but you got to just go for it and just trust the process. And once the community and people see you, that you're doing this, that they get behind you as well. And the community wants to see businesses succeed. They support you because you support them. So I think that's probably the one thing that I would have done. I would have moved a bit faster.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So where do you think the balance of that is? Because obviously there is wisdom in wanting to make sure that you've got a plan B if things don't go right. Do you think it's more that you are overthinking the purchases, and so there was like that fear element of it, or do you think it was were you just not confident in the business at that point in time? Like, where's the balance, do you think, on those decisions?
I just think I didn't really understand how sales and marketing works. Like, you can look at the news and podcasts and you can hear about the macro economy doing this and that, but really you create your own economy, the way you live your life and the way you serve your community and the way you market yourself. Yeah, there's always going to be plenty of work for every industry, but it's the ones that have the marketing prowess that will get the work. So learning to really market and consistently, that was the key. Yeah, just to have that.
Yeah, because I think from our conversations, it's almost like you had really good marketing, you had the leads, so you probably could have purchased the equipment earlier because you actually had the work there, but maybe there was a bit of fear on pressing go and actually pushing, because look, arborist equipment is not cheap. They're expensive. So do you think it was more the fear because of the size of the purchases that you were having to invest into the assets?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you just holding back because you're just nervous. Oh, if I go to invest in that, then I've got to be earning this much a week to cover everything. And then you start to just second guess yourself. But yeah, if you just have the confidence that the work is there and I know how to get it, basically just through the marketing and sales. Yeah. And the other one was getting good structure on the leading and lagging indicators. So just having a really good spreadsheet, and also just measuring all the leads that come in and how many convert, how many quotes we do, knowing what our win-loss ratio is. And then you can just predict, okay, we need, say, 200 quotes a month, and we're going to win half. Our average ticket is this, average cost of sales is this. And then we know, like, I just got to get 200 quotes out. I'm going to win half. This is my average ticket. And then you can project how much money you're going to make. before you even enter that month, because you look back at the last 6 months and you can see the trend. So once you have that data, you can just start to predict the future. And that simple technique just makes all the difference. And that's what big businesses do every day of the week.
Yeah. It feels like as in small business though, it's like there's the confidence in the business of can we generate the leads and all of that kind of stuff. But then there's also the confidence, and it's almost like there's the balance of both that really makes it difficult sometimes to make the decision, because I think sometimes we can go, well, my business can do this, but I'm not sure I can do this. That's the fear that sometimes the push and the pull of like the business is actually healthy. The business can sustain this investment. The business can grow to that next level, and to be honest, needs some of these investments to grow to that next level. But sometimes we're more concerned about, okay, am I confident that I can go out and get the 200 quotes and do all of that work? And so someone needs to do it, and you're that person. And so it's more of a self-confidence issue rather than a business confidence issue.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but that's where the team comes in and the culture and everything. So once you just keep investing in your team and you have that culture that you need to protect and manage and feed and all the rest, that adds to the confidence and also the need for growth as well. So it's all intertwined, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So just let's shift gears a little bit. Obviously, one of the biggest impacts that business has is on our families. And in your experience and how you've gone over the last 11, 12 years, what were the things that you had to do to maintain that balance? And were the things that you had to do to either integrate or to be intentional about maintaining that family life while you were building the business?
Yeah. It's like another thing that you just need to learn as well. So this has been a learning journey for me as well. And basically got married, and then we had our little eldest daughter about a year later, and then we started the business like 3 months later. So it was all pretty quick after being married. So it's been full on. We've bought a unit, renovated, sold, bought a house on acreage, renovated. Been here for 10 years. There's been we built a house for our in-laws. So there's been lots of like things happening. So there's been, pushing and pulling in every direction. I just think one thing that did well was always had Sunday off. Just Sunday was just rest day, just go to church and sleep on the couch. That for the early years, because I was just working like all the time. I was very tired. So that was my bad. I didn't look after my family that well at that stage. I was just working crazy amounts. For me, I was also loving that. I was enjoying that part of the journey. It's very difficult, but I think, balance is, it's as long as, the family knows what season you're in. Hey, this might be a little bit out of balance for this season, but we're going to build something that's going to support us for the next 20 seasons. So as long as that conversation's had, that's really important. And then obviously checking in. So that might be a great conversation, but it might not be the best thing. So you're going to need to check in with your family to see how it's going for them. But I think that was a couple of things that we did. We've always have the Sunday off, and as the money started to come in as well, we were able to take holidays from time to time. But to be honest, it has been we've worked hard to get to this point. So it hasn't always been fun. And there's the joke that I've been happily married for 14 years, but my wife's only been happily married for 7. So it has been tough on the family at times.
Yeah. I love what you are talking about with understanding the seasons, because I think in business, we especially when we're starting out, I think can sometimes be an idealistic view of what running a business is going to be like, of the free time, the good money and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is that often doesn't come for a few years after you've started your business. And those first few years are often a grind. And there are a lot of sacrifices that need to be made, whether it be for family or community or the different, sometimes even your personal health in terms of being able to work out. And yes, like in an ideal world, we should all have time and make time for all of those things. But the reality is that on a practical level, that's not always the case. And there is a season where you just need to work hard. And there's a lot of YouTubers and different coaches out there that are talking about their 3-hour morning ritual before they get started in the day. I think most of us who get started in business, our ritual is you get up and you get to work. Like it's just, that's the ritual. There is no, I'm going to spend such and such amount of time meditating. And don't get me wrong, all of those things are helpful and they're good.
100%.
But in the first few years, you're just getting to work because you have to get the work done. And as you say, over time, it gets easier and it gets better. But in the early days, that's just the season that you're in. And but I think as well, what you're saying, which I really appreciate, is that you got to have your family on the same page. They've got to understand the season that you're in as well. It's not something that you necessarily decide for your family. It's a decision that you make together as a family, and then you go through that journey together.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a saying, sweat equity or real equity. So you can either, you got to put the sweat equity into your business, that's your hard work, or you've got actual equity, capital, and you can invest. So instead of you doing all the work, you just hire an office manager on day one. You spend massive amounts on your marketing budget on day two, and then you build your team out and you buy the assets. And then, you spent, who knows, a few $100,000, but you don't have to work 80 hours a week because you've invested the money. But most people don't have that. They just start off and they've got to build it with their sweat equity. So as long as people know that there are two options, but you either got to do one or the other.
Yeah, what would you do anything differently? We asked that from a perspective of business, but in terms of the family, is there anything that you would have done differently with how you manage that balance?
Yeah, like I think, so like this is a bit of a personality thing. It's like I just get hyper fixated on things. So I'd just been able to switch off. Like when you come home from work, you just get out of your work clothes, have a shower, and then put on your dad clothes or your husband clothes and be that. Don't think about business. Don't answer the phone. Just all those things. Just have a clear demarcation. That's really critical. With one thing that I've got better at, but early on, not so much. So that's a big one. I think just bringing them on the journey as much as you can. Something that I learned a while back is just celebrate the wins, reward them with the rewards that the business produces. So that's they're experiencing the sacrifice, so they've got to experience the reward. So whatever that is, if it's just going out for ice cream or going to the movies or going on a fancy holiday, whatever it is, just share that love so then they can see, oh, dad's gone, but hey, this is the result. And at least they can appreciate that. That'd be a couple of things.
I love that. I think that's such a great point that I think that we can miss is that sometimes we can celebrate wins in our business with our team, but I think we sometimes forget to celebrate the wins with our family. And that's so important. They're as equally invested from a sacrifice point of view, from a energy and stress point of view, and they're invested. And sometimes we can forget to celebrate the wins with our family the way that we would celebrate the wins with our team. And I think that's so critical. That's so important to be able to create time for that. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah,
no,
that's great.
Good point. Yeah, and just having that, you do actually have two families as well, because your business becomes a family, and you've got your family. So you've just got to be careful about what's feeding you more as well, and what are you feeding more. So I think that's one to navigate, but also just trying to don't bring all the baggage into the house. So business, stuff goes wrong, things get broken, people it gets messy, but that doesn't have to come into your home. Try to keep those separate.
Yeah, great. So what's next for you, Phil, and for Eden Trees? What's the next stage for you and the things that you're focusing on in this next season?
Yeah, look, it's just onwards and upwards, really. We're just, looking at building the team out more. We're setting up the second depot in the coming few weeks. So, look, going to build a shed at our place here just for one of the crews. And then, property, like going to look at getting into a bit of property and utilizing the property for the business and doing that. But marketing, we just want to keep learning. Yeah, just really getting beautiful brand wraps on our vehicles. Just keep building out that brand and become like a household name.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So we've got a real customer centric sort of like goal in the company. So the guys get rewarded when they get 5-star reviews, and so we try to just keep, is the customer happy? How's the customer experiencing this? Try to just keep it back on the customer, and then appreciating that everything comes from the customer. Like the customer pays for everything. The way we cherish that and value that, the way we all grow.
Yeah.
Just keep going, really.
That's great. Last question I have for you is, if you had one piece of advice to the business owner who is grinding it out, they are in the trenches, they're in that season of the grind, managing the stresses of business and family and trying to work out how to get to that next level, what would be your one piece of advice to them in this season?
Yeah, if it's working, like if they're making money, they're in a good, they got a good business model. Like you got to just live in reality. Is this working? Is there a future? Like, just keep your eyes open, keep asking questions, keep observing. Yeah, but just keep going. Yeah, be all in. Don't be double-minded. If you're doing it, just do it. Give it everything. Just don't close. You've got to be open. Look at other industries. Look in your own industry, but look outside of your industry. What's other industries? What are they doing? How are they communicating to their customers? How are they innovating with technology? How are they serving and look at their customer journey? Like, how can you implement some of that stuff into your business? So just having that sort of openness and just be really curious. Like, just keep asking questions. There's an answer, there's a solution. But if you're always asking questions, you do just attract it. You start to see it everywhere. And another thing is just people in business, they love to share advice with you. I'd love more people to ask me questions on how to do this and how to do that, because you have all this, you've gained all this knowledge and understanding. You just want to share it with people. So just go to people in your industry and ask them how they got to where they got, and just stay hungry.
Awesome. That's so good. Thank you so much for your time today, Phil. It was a pleasure interviewing you today on your company at Eden Trees, and we're looking forward to seeing the next stage of growth.
Yeah, no, thanks, Daniel. This is my first ever podcast, so it's been an honor to be on your one.
Excellent. No, it's been great to have you, and looking forward to seeing what's next.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Phil.